Redditors who cook, what's the biggest no-no thing in cooking? Chef for 10 years, here's some good things to keep in mind when cooking at home. Clean as you go. It minimizes clutter and mess and makes everything easier. Sharpen your damn knives, seriously, dull knives are dangerous as fuck. Blenders are not just for smoothies, use them for sauces and your life will be changed. Please stack your fridge appropriately so cross-contamination doesn't happen. Veggies and fruit on top, also eggs is fine, beef, fish, poultry. Chicken juice will contaminate raw veggies so quick. You don't need a fucking knife block. I'm a chef for a living, I butcher 10 to 20 ducks a week and I have 6 knives? Even that is just cause I'm very particular. Your average home chef needs 3 at most. A standard length chef knife, a paring knife, which most home chefs never use from what I've seen, and a medium-size blade for veggies can be nice. Label and date when you open stuff and keep it near the front. Keeping it near the front is most important as it helps encourage you to remember, ah yes, I have this kale that I should use before you open something else. Olive oil can go bad, lots of people think it can't, but it can. Canned stuff isn't the worst, just mix it with fresh stuff. Diversify what ingredients you're using. Most Americans and Europeans cook with the same 20 things. Every time you go to the grocery store, pick up a new ingredient and try it out. Beets? Amazing. Like mushrooms? Try oyster mushrooms instead of generic shiitakes. Like onions? Grab a leek. Seriously, change it up. Wading into more professional territory, but try some fermentation. Lots of great stuff out there, but I'd recommend kimchi. If you wanna get serious, buy the Noma Guide to Fermentation and actually read it. Best $30 you'll ever spend. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. My lazy ass learned the hard way to never use a pot holder that got wet to get a hot pan out of the oven. Basically renders the pot holder useless, ended up burning my hand and dropping my food. Also, when baking bread, don't add cold water to a hot Pyrex that has been in there for a minute to make steam. I knew what was going to happen, but I did it anyway. Boom. Glass shards everywhere. Feeling like it's too hard or being afraid to experiment with stuff. Obviously don't try something totally new when you're cooking for guests, but don't feel like failing means you suck. If you mess up, learn from it and move on, it's not the end of the world. Hardest agree in this thread so far. I can't tell you how many dishes I've made that I had to hate because they turned out poorly or bland, but each one teaches you something important if you are willing to learn. My success rate at making new dishes is very high now because of all the failures. For the love of God, stop mucking about with whatever it is you're cooking. Unless it's something you specifically need to be mixing or stirring constantly, leave it alone. You'll never get proper color on things if they make more contact with your spatula than your pan. This is how I always fuck up pancakes. They are so simple, but for some ungodly reason I have a compulsive need to try to flip them when I know that shit shouldn't be touched yet. Edit, yes, I know when it bubbles you flip it. I said I have a compulsive need to try to flip it even though I know it's not time. Cutting with a dull knife. Get yourself a sharpener, even if it's a cheap one. Nah, just get a new knife and save the dull one for the bathroom. I used to suck at sharpening knives, and this is exactly what I would do every fishing season. The local bait shop would have cheap fillet knives on sale every year. And every year I'd buy a new one because it's sharp until next year. Just a year or so ago, I got some good stones and learned via YouTube how to properly sharpen a knife. What a game changer, and it saves me $4.99 a year. Can I give you my mother-in-law's number? You don't have to be polite. She is always on the run and never has enough time to cook, yet always insists on cooking meals that take 3x more time than she has available, so she shortcuts the fuck out of every meal and they always turn out horribly. Just this weekend the family went to an apple orchard for most of the day and we were going to eat dinner at a nearby friend's house. Instead of doing the logical thing, like planning a dinner that doesn't need to cook all day or hell, Something crazy like just ordering fucking pizza. She decides she wants pulled pork. So she throws the pork in the slow cooker and plugs it into a power inverter in their car and then leaves it in there for 5 hours, one of which was driving in and 4 of which were with it parked in the parking lot, with the ignition turned off and therefore no power to the inverter. Of course, when we got to the friend's house this was all revealed to me. She was saying how the pork didn't cook and trying to figure out how we could quickly cook it. She said she thought it would just run off the battery in the car. Infuriating. One of the best descriptions of this, I believe, was from Alton Brown. The way he worded it, extremely paraphrased, of course, was to consider time and temperature as if they were ingredients themselves. You can't alter them any more than any other ingredient and expect the result to come out correctly. I think a big problem is the variability in a recipe when it says cook on medium-high with no reference to the type of range. It could be shitty electric coil range that takes 15 mins to caramelize brown onions, or my aunt's gas stove could do it in like 5 because the low setting is basically mid-high on other stoves. Basically, temperature is so ambiguous unless you plan on probing every 30 seconds or something ridiculous. If you cook enough you can go off of intuition, taste, smell, and look without really having to know the exact time or temperature.